Of the 10 invited Penn Staters to the NFL Combine, which one do you expect to blow up the most and make some leaps from testing and drill work? I love this question. Fitz, I want to come to you. Who do you think is going to be the Combine darling or darlings of this group?
Boy, that's tough because you take in the whole body of work in terms of which guys are sort of helping themselves. And I think that if it's just the combine, I think Theo Johnson is probably the guy. If
Yep.
it's this whole body of work with January Senior Bowl, I think Adisa Isaac's done like wonders for his draft stock, and I think he's going to continue to do well. I don't know that he'll top it or he'll test at the top of his position like I expect Theo to do. But I think both of those guys are really, really like going to open some eyes. And then of course, Curtis Jacobs is going to run well. I feel pretty good about making that prediction. And if he runs well, you know how valuable that linebacker spot is in the NFL. And it's one of those positions that we, sort of comes and goes in terms of the value of it. But like,
Yeah.
I think it's on an upswing right now. And I think Curtis Jacobs can really help himself.
Yeah, I'm super interested to see how the NFL sees Curtis as somebody who didn't play full time in the box, but has that versatility, shows that in a really hard spot, he plays well, in coverage, kind of in no man's land on the field side. That's not going to be where he plays in the NFL, but how does that translate? And those athletic skills are going to be part of the conversation in a big way. I'm curious about Theo. I know he'll run well in a straight line. I know he's going to look beautiful catching the ball in drills.
Right.
He is kind of a big dude, big feet. How does he turn? Because that's something that I'm interested in. I was scrolling through Twitter the other day and I saw somebody pull up a stat of the NFL passing leaders at tight end and their relative athletic score, which is a combination of all the usable metrics from size to speed to change of direction, etc., among tight ends. And 10, I think, is the highest. And all of the tight ends in the NFL that were in the top 6 or 7 had a 9 or above. And Theo can be in that group. I'm just curious about some of those things, that some of those subcategories that we don't pay as much attention to that can inform his route running at the next level and stuff like that. So I'm just curious of how the NFL will, where he'll play and how he'll play. Chop Robinson, his explosive metrics and the on-field testing of watching him run the hoop, I'm very excited for that, because he's going to basically be parallel to the ground running to the towel that he has to pick up, because that's what he did at Penn State quite a bit.
Well, it's funny because you look at all these guys and you can make an argument for most of them. Daquan Hardy's going to have to run well. Like he's going to have to do everything extra because of his size. Hunter Norzad is going to be a guy that's probably going to surprise some people. I think he's going to be drafted middle rounds or something like that because of the value that he brings from positional versatility, brains, and he's a really strong kid as well. But you look at Olu and Chop and you say, how much higher can they go? And to me, it's fascinating and kind of funny that people are saying that Olu's sliding because
they turn on his run film.
Give me that guy. Like, give me that guy. Give me that guy at 9 or 10. Like, give me that guy at 6. Like, like how much can he move based off of the combine here? So it's going to be fun to watch all these guys, and Johnny and Kalen, they need to like get back above water basically after that Senior Bowl, and we're going to see what they're made of.
Nate, are any of these storylines, which ones are interesting to you? And, I'll just list off the names in case you don't have them in front of you. Theo Johnson, Olu Fashanu, Hunter Norzad, Caden Wallace, Adisa Isaac, Chop Robinson, Curtis Jacobs, Johnny Dixon, Daquan Hardy, and Kalen King are going to the Combine. Which storylines are you interested in covering and following through the draft process?
Johnny Dixon.
Why so?
Well, I don't think anybody thought he was what he became by the end of his Penn State career. And so, right, how much of what he did this past season is right. It's the continuation of the Joey Porter situation with Kalen, right? It's almost a duplicate of that conversation, is how much of Kalen's productivity was a result of teams' perceptions of Joey Porter. Okay. Then this past year, how much of Johnny's productivity was a result of Kalen King's perception. And then how does that translate? Once you put him on the field, then right, you put him into those testing situations, right? How does he test? How do all those things shake out for him? And where does he eventually land? Because Frank, I mean, I think at one point we had a conversation, you guys are paying way more attention to this than I am, but like a mid-ish round, 4th, 5th round pick, maybe
For Dixon?
maybe higher. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm off here, but I always saw his talent, his feet, his speed, his ability to physically cover ground as a second round corner. Where he develops into those is kind of, I guess, the question of, do you project him to get better? But yeah, I think he's absolutely a guy who can start in the NFL. And then the question becomes, is he a good starter? Is he a guy you're trying to replace Fitz? I think and he's probably scheme specific too.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing, is his landing spot's going to tell a lot. And I think you're right. I think he's the type of player that can start in the NFL. I don't necessarily know that he's going to start his career as a high draft pick and be that guy. Like if it's like a 3rd round pick, like great. But at the same time, like he's going to have to work his way there. I don't think he's going to be a day one guy wherever he goes. And that's just, I mean, that kind of goes without saying, but at the same time, I'm trying to elongate that point that he can be a very productive guy, no matter if he's drafted in the 3rd or the 5th.
Rob says this, and I just want to point this out about Chop Robinson. He says Chop's measurables are going to be key. The analysts point to a lack of sacks, which is really based on number of snaps. Win rate is decent. Win rate is great. Rob, thank you for saying this. He literally changed the plan for Michigan in 8 snaps. They physically couldn't block him, so they stopped throwing the football. If you've got a guy who can change a game plan, like first round or not, and the NFL's not going to draft him in the first round because he's not 265, but he can be a difference maker as a pass rusher. And his ability to turn the corner and bend the edge, I think, is better than anybody that they've had recently, and they've had some really good guys recently.